One day in 2023, they found themselves summoned to a separate world, or rather, a part of their city was summoned by transcendental beings, the players of a cosmic game. The city was brought into this game as a mere chess piece, and the citizens were mere units in the players' hands. The players would roll dice and move the city like pawns on a chessboard, with each move resulting in a mission for the citizens. These missions were unimaginably difficult and painful, ranging from battles to investigations and mazes. The citizens' role was to protect the pawn, or simply call it the city, even though they didn't know if a finish line existed. The consequences of failure were severe. Pawns that failed their missions would collapse, sharing the same fate as the warrior who was writing the record. The warrior, aware of this dire situation, decided to document their experience, hoping that someone might find it and avoid the same fate. The key message was clear: never stand against the players, regardless of your abilities or weapons, as they were mere units within the player's game. Choi Yul, the story's protagonist, stumbled upon this record and recognized the value of the strategies within. However, he dropped the record, stating that he already knew everything in it. He then revealed that there was one piece of information not included in the record: you could beat the players if you had a proper guidebook. With newfound determination, Choi Yul used his powers to float and flew toward one of the players. The player summoned their weapon and swung it at Choi Yul. The tip of the weapon was cracked. Choi Yul was hit, but he easily blocked the attack with his arms. He then retaliated by forming a punch and striking the player, causing it to fall. Defiantly, Choi Yul declared that he had no intention of suffering obediently in this game. He was determined to put an end to the players and the game itself before returning to his original world. This decision marked the beginning of their new path and the quest to determine their own ending in this strange realm. The story begins on an ordinary and peaceful day in the city, where the citizens are gathered at an event, including the protagonist, Choi Yul. He is enjoying music while no one expects that this day will be the last peaceful one they experience. Suddenly, a mysterious line appears, slicing the city into squares, and transporting the entire city to a different dimension. Citizens are left puzzled and wonder what caused the unusual earthquake-like event. Choi Yul, familiar with the concept of dimensional transportation from web novels and webtoons, contemplates if what he's witnessing is similar to those stories. A system window appears in front of the citizens, and it instructs them to throw a dice. The citizens are perplexed by this demand, not knowing what dice they should use. As they look up into the sky, they witness a colossal dice descending from above and landing above the city. It reveals the number 3, indicating that the pawn, the city, must move 3 spaces. This turn of events leaves the citizens terrified and clueless about the situation. Choi Yul comes to a realization that they have been summoned to a game in which they are not the players but the pawns. He assumes that the being who threw the dice is the player, and the city they inhabit is just one of the pawns. However, he is left questioning why the citizens were brought into this game along with the city. Another announcement appears on the system window, stating that they have arrived at a defense space. The system sets the difficulty level to 1 and designates a defense time of 3 days. A map is summoned alongside the city, leaving the citizens even more baffled. The system window issues another announcement, explaining that a defense mission will commence soon. It warns that if all 4 bases in the city are destroyed, it will result in a game over, implying severe consequences for the pawn, which in this case is the city itself. The citizens start to panic, with some questioning the consequences of the pawn's death and asking what will happen to them. Meanwhile, a man beside Choi Yul attempts to knock on the barrier, demanding to be taken back and for the game to be stopped. Choi Yul remains calm, understanding that communication isn't possible and they should focus on the provided announcements. A new announcement prompts citizens to throw their dice, and a blue dice appears in Choi Yul's hand. This dice has 100 faces, and the announcement explains that depending on the roll, citizens will receive different weapons. The possibilities include 1 to 60 an ordinary class, 61 to 80 a magical class, 81 to 94 a heroic class, 95 to 99 a legendary class, and 100 a mythical class weapon. As something approaches the city, one citizen notes that it doesn't seem like a rescue team. When they see that it's monsters charging towards them, panic ensues, and the citizens attempt to flee. The monsters quickly close in on them, launching attacks. In the chaos, a massive ogre strikes Choi Yul, sending him flying. He realizes that humans were summoned as a force to protect the city, serving as pawns in a larger game controlled by beings who might be gods or demons. Choi Yul stumbles and lands among some boxes, eventually losing consciousness. However, a girl with a spear and flaming wings, Go Haiju, level 1, appears behind the ogre. Her class is an ordinary citizen, but she wields the empirical flame dragon prominence canine, a legendary class spear that allows her to harness the power of the empirical flame dragon. She conjures a fiery tornado, drawing the ogres in and incinerating them. The monster was killed in an instant. The citizens are left in awe of the power displayed by Go Haiju, with one of them asking who she is. Her arrival marks a turning point in the battle against the monsters. Go Haiju instructs the injured citizens to retreat to Namsan Tower and informs them that the military and police are forming a defense line. She urges them to roll their dice as soon as possible because it will turn into equipment according to the number rolled. Those with ordinary class equipment should fall back, while those with magical class equipment or higher should assist her. The citizens follow her advice, rolling their dice and receiving various weapons accordingly. As they face off against the monsters, the citizens, now armed, heed Go Haiju's commands to fight back. This day marks the transition from their ordinary lives to extraordinary ones. The first day of the new year is marred by countless casualties and the emergence of heroes. Meanwhile, Choi Yule, still unconscious, inadvertently rolls his dice, and it lands on a 100, granting him a mythical class weapon. On this 8th pawn, he became the strongest and worst ever garbage by others. His weapon is the Demon King of Sovereignty Krasina's book, a mythical class magic text that allows its user to access information such as item locations, hidden events, monster information, maps, and mission objectives. However, it comes with a catch. Krasina is an embodiment of monopolistic desire, and any rewards earned from knowledge taken from the text will go to the Krasina book's owner. As the defense mission continued, the situation grew increasingly dire, with 3,102 casualties and 7,023 injuries. One of the bases had already been destroyed. Despite the exhaustion from incinerating the monsters, Go Haiju continued battling. When the military arrived at the scene, the soldiers offered assistance to the injured and civilians, using a military truck to evacuate them to Namsan Tower. An officer saluted Haiju, acknowledging her efforts, but she downplayed her role, saying it was nothing. One of the soldiers, Kwon Jaeong, informed Haiju that thanks to her buying them time, the army and police were now being dispatched to various locations to deal with the situation. Haiju inquired if it was all over, but Jaeong explained that the lack of phone calls and internet connectivity made it challenging to assess the situation accurately. They were using shortwave radios to re-establish communication and would receive situation reports from different areas. Haiju agreed to head to Namsan Tower for the time being. However, their conversation was interrupted by Choi Yul, who shouted that it wasn't over yet. He claimed that the boss monster was going to appear soon, referring to the mission information, monster data, and the current progress. He displayed a mythical class book that seemed to contain critical information. When Haiju and Jaeong inspected the book, it appeared blank, leaving them puzzled. Jaeong considered the possibility that the book might be visible only to Choi Yul, speculating that it could be an extremely powerful item if it contained exclusive information. Information, as he noted, was akin to power in such circumstances. Choi Yul began revealing more information from the mysterious book when asked by Jaeong. He mentioned that Jaeong's helmet was part of a 6-item set and was a hero rank item, and that Jaeong had 21 days left until his discharge, and that Haiju possessed a legendary rank weapon called Empirical Flame Dragon Prominence's Canine. However, when Choi Yul playfully mentioned Haiju's favorite karaoke song, she became shy and stopped him from sharing more personal information. Haiju and Jaeong acknowledged the book's authenticity due to the inclusion of personal information. Jaeong believed that if the book was accurate about their personal details, it was likely to be correct about the impending boss monster. Jaeong informed HQ about the situation and received permission to proceed. He provided Choi Yul with a radio and explained that they didn't have an alternative plan and couldn't afford to waste any more time. They decided to trust Choi Yul's data and requested him to provide as much information and countermeasures as possible. Choi Yul received the radio and tested it before outlining the defense mission and detailing the boss monster. He described the boss as a twin-headed ogre with a difficulty rating of 1, capable of both close combat and magic. To win the mission, they needed to protect the base 4 times a day, 12 times in 3 days, and defeat the wave boss. Choi Yul stressed that with this information, they could strategize and improve their chances of survival. The city was in chaos as monsters attacked, and the military worked to protect the citizens. Many people were injured and had to be taken to the hospital. Choi Yul continued to speak on the radio, explaining the situation and the mission. He mentioned that once the mission was completed, he would look for a way to return to their original world. Haiju was impressed by Choi Yul's leadership and forward thinking. The operation to protect the bases in battle the ogre commenced. Soldiers prepared their equipment and discussed their strategies. Citizens organized themselves, under Choi Yul's guidance, using the information from his mythical weapon, the Krasina's book. With the help of Jang, Choi Yul, and Haiju, the battle with the boss monster began. Choi Yul provided commands to the soldiers using the information from his book, while Haiju used her fiery wing and fire spear to attack and defeat the twin-headed ogre boss with ease. After the boss's defeat, Jang reported that the situation for Wave 1 was over. Choi Yul and Haiju exchanged thumbs-up gestures to celebrate their victory. After the battle, Choi Yul reflected on the consequences of sharing information from Krasina's book. He realized that the book had the power to monopolize all the rewards of those with whom the information was shared, and this included not only those who heard it directly from him but also anyone who heard rumors or information that started with him. Demon King of Sovereignty, Krasina. Pawn number 8. Total population: 193,256. Recorded sacrifices of sovereignty: 176,542. 91% of the population were recorded as sacrifices in one day. Choi Yul pondered the weight of his actions and the sins he had accumulated, especially since the majority of the population had become sacrifices of sovereignty. The ongoing defense mission on the 8th pawn remains in progress, akin to a defensive video game. In this scenario, monstrous entities advance towards bases that require safeguarding, while players mobilize forces to thwart their progress. Choi Yul took the reins via radio, advising the troops to initiate long-range weaponry attacks capable of covering extensive areas. As they launched these attacks, fiery explosions erupted. While the initial set of weapons cooled down, a secondary wave of attacks commenced using different long-range weapons. Ogres found themselves in a quandary due to Choi Yul's tactical prowess. The level 1 monsters lacked intelligence, and soldiers battled with a somewhat feeble barrage. One soldier issued a directive not to spare any ammunition and urged their comrades to entice the monsters in a specific direction, inflicting maximum damage while causing the monsters to disperse. This would then allow for more advanced parties equipped with superior gear. The intense battle raged on, with military explosions and in-game weapons adding to the cacophony. Choi Yul's directive was unequivocal: annihilate all the monsters and uphold the current state of affairs. They also needed to reinforce specific locations. Choi Yul couldn't help but ponder the real-time updates provided by Krasina's book, which supplied information about the ongoing situation at a mere thought. With this tool, he believed that he, as well as everyone else, could ensure their survival. Choi Yul continued issuing instructions to the citizens, emphasizing the importance of ranged support equipment. As the citizens complied, he instructed them to stand by for the imminent monster threat from the left alleyway. The city was in chaos, and Jang continued to engage the ogres, reporting the situation was under control. Another soldier was instructed to relay the situation to Choi Yul. Initially, the commanding headquarters had the final say, considering Choi Yul's suggestions. However, it appeared that Choi Yul himself had assumed direct command. The book contained only data, raising questions about whether his ability extended to commanding the entire city, or if the book played a role in this. Choi Yul approached Jang, indicating that the end was near. Jang inquired about the arrival of the final boss of the last wave, to which Choi Yul confirmed its imminent appearance but reassured Jang that Haiju would handle it decisively. Haiju, nestled in the back of a military truck. The final boss, a giant named Billy, appeared on the scene. Despite its massive size, it lacked combat prowess and had been abandoned by its kind for being weak. As the boss monster pursued them, Choi Yul woke Haiju, and Jang revealed that they had exhausted their flares. Billy the giant tried to strike the military truck by smashing the ground, but they managed to evade it. They lured the monster outside the city, aware that the bases would be swiftly obliterated if they entered the city. Fortunately, the monster moved at a snail's pace and had no particular resistance to any element, making it vulnerable to a relentless bombardment. Haiju expressed concerns, noting that they were alone. Choi Yul, however, had a plan in mind and indicated that it was only Haiju who needed to fight. Haiju readied her spear and inquired about Choi Yul's intentions. He disclosed the existence of hidden features in items above heroic rank, explaining that fulfilling specific conditions could alter their form or activate concealed skills. The book contained all the information about these conditions. Hyaju, though apprehensive, placed her trust in Choi Yul. Choi Yul revealed the condition of her weapon, and Hyaju sought confirmation. She asked if he was sure, and he asserted his certainty in both himself and the book. Though uneasy, Hyaju followed his advice. She pointed her spear at her own abdomen, causing the boss monster to grab her with both hands. Despite Jang's concern, Choi Yul assured him that Hyaju would be fine. A sudden force propelled Hyaju out of the monster's grasp, and the system window announced the activation of the hidden skill of Prominence's Canine. A dragon-shaped aura materialized, gathering energy in its mouth to assail the enemy. Hyaju summoned the empirical flame dragon Prominence, a skill usable once per mission. The dragon released a devastating attack on the Billy Giant, resulting in a massive explosion. Jang realized the potential danger of such skills within the city and acknowledged that Choi Yul's book was equally formidable. It contained a wealth of hazardous information, capable of jeopardizing the city if misused. He concluded that it was fortunate that someone like Choi Yul possessed the book. After defeating the monster, Choi Yul approached Hyaju to ensure her well-being, supporting her as she walked. The system announced the successful completion of the defense mission, prompting the relocation of citizens from outside the city back within its protective walls. As they were teleported to the city, the surviving citizens cheered for Hyaju and Choi Yul, their names ringing out amid the jubilant crowd. Upon the completion of the mission, they were awarded 300 points. However, due to one of the bases being destroyed, they incurred a deduction of 75 points each, resulting in a total of 225 points for every participant. Individual rewards, factoring in contributions to the monster raid, base defense, and wave boss fight, were set to be distributed after calculations. The point shop opened, offering a range of options, including healing, equipment purchase, trading, and auctions. In the healing shop, they had the opportunity to buy different healing options. Healing, which would mend all injuries, cost 10 points. Purification, a remedy for all status abnormalities, also cost 10 points. Regeneration, which could regrow amputated body parts, was priced at 20 points. The nurse recommended starting with healing, which would alleviate the injuries suffered during the mission. The citizens felt a sense of relief, knowing that the injured would soon be on the path to recovery. However, their joy was short-lived as they were suddenly confounded by a significant point discrepancy. The system announced that all rewards had been revoked due to the sacrifice of sovereignty. The citizens were outraged, demanding to know the meaning of this term and vehemently protesting the loss of their hard-earned points. Hyaju turned to Choi Yul, seeking an explanation. Choi Yul admitted he was just as perplexed and examined the system, which presented him with choices related to the sacrifice of sovereignty. Sacrifice 10% of the citizens for double rewards. Sacrifice 20% of the citizens for triple rewards. Sacrifice 90% of the citizens for a 100-fold increase in rewards. Another announcement displayed the top point earners in the mission. Third place, Seo Yunsuk with 312 points. Second place, Kong Sungwon with 1402 points. First place, Choi Yul with 9,968,844,850 points. The citizens were initially bewildered, but anger soon overtook their confusion. They confronted Choi Yul, accusing him of orchestrating the sacrifice of sovereignty to claim all the rewards for himself. Choi Yul vehemently denied their accusations, insisting that he had no knowledge of such a feature. Unbeknownst to them, the book had the power to monopolize all rewards for those with whom the information was shared, extending beyond those who directly heard it from Choi Yul to anyone who heard rumors or information that began with him. Jang attempted to defuse the situation, emphasizing the need to prioritize treating the injured and proposing the sharing of points among the people if possible. He questioned whether Choi Yul had intentionally acquired these points for himself. Choi Yul expressed his willingness to share the points, but the system window displayed a message: the Demon King's monopolistic desire, Krasina, denied sharing or donating items points. The citizens grew increasingly furious, demanding their points, as the death toll continued to rise, and the situation became dire. In desperation, Choi Yul tried to purchase healing items to distribute them, but the system denied his request. Frustration took hold as he threw the book and implored Hyaju to burn it. Hyaju employed her spear to set the book ablaze. However, to their astonishment, the book emerged unscathed. Choi Yul found himself at a loss, with citizens begging for just 10 points to save their loved ones. One citizen, in particular, was in agony, weeping for their dying sibling and pleading for their mother. The mounting death toll and the citizens' anger created a tumultuous atmosphere. Despite his desperation, Choi Yul continued to search for a solution within the book. Jang, holding a gun, appeared behind Choi Yul, and he made a grave declaration. "That's enough, Choi Yul Nim. This is for the best." As Jang held a gun to Choi Yul's head and declared his arrest, the enraged citizens demanded the return of their rewards. They accused Choi Yul of being a fraud and called for his punishment. However, Jang whispered to Choi Yul, urging him to run away and find a way to rectify the situation. It was their best option at the moment. Choi Yul clenched his fist, opened the shop window, and purchased 30 points worth of agility. With his newfound agility, he swiftly took to the air and fled, leaving the citizens in shock. An announcement appeared for all citizens, indicating the time remaining until the next turn: 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. The citizens panicked, wondering why the time was so short. Jang took command, instructing the citizens to move to safe areas and urging them to hurry. They transported the injured in vehicles, while soldiers assisted the citizens. Hyaju was left in the area, contemplating her next steps. Upon reaching the safe area, an officer announced a division of those willing to fight to the left and those opting to evacuate to the right. He also emphasized the importance of checking their status windows regularly and advised them not to leave the evacuation center. They were to memorize the locations of temporary bases and other evacuation centers and to report Choi Yul's whereabouts immediately. The officer warned them to cover their ears and run if they spotted Choi Yul. Citizens who had become sacrifices of sovereignty were instructed not to conceal it from the public or face consequences. The citizens carried on with their preparations, some evacuating, some in hospitals, some praying, and others training for the impending monster fight. Choi Yul remained focused on resolving the situation and redistributing his points, while Jang formulated a plan for the next mission. Hyaju dedicated herself to training and preparation. After 24 hours, the next turn began. A player threw the dice, and the 8th pawn advanced 4 spaces. An announcement informed them that they had arrived in the Demon King Seal space, where demonic pillars needed to be destroyed, and pillar guardians would appear. Failure to destroy all pillars within the allotted time would result in the summoning of the Demon King. The system provided mission details, including the mission duration of 5 days in the presence of 3 pillars. The first pillar guardian, Fateless Fallen Angel, had a difficulty level of 1. This fallen angel sought its lost fate. The second pillar guardian, Mad Brains, also had a difficulty level of 1. It had a relentless drive to create. The third pillar guardian, Goblin Swordmaster Jack, had a difficulty level of 3. This goblin swordsman was a martial arts master on a mission to undo the Demon King's seal. Choi Yul remained focused, unable to find a solution to the predicament and, surprisingly, was smiling after the next mission announcement. A soldier reported to Jang through the radio, informing him that the civilians had started attacking and proved uncontrollable. Jang decided they should move as well, inquired about Hyaju's whereabouts, and was told that she had left some time ago. Jang pondered the situation, realizing that the once perfect system and cooperation had unraveled in just a single day. The scene shifted to Hyaju, facing the Goblin Swordmaster, who was one of the Pillar Guardians with a difficulty level of 3. Determined to eliminate the threat before anyone else got hurt, Hyaju assumed a fighting stance, her spear brimming with fiery energy. She charged toward the goblin, ready to strike. The goblin, however, deftly blocked her attack with his sword and hurled her away, sending her flying. He raised his sword for a powerful slash attack, but then Choi Yul intervened, saving Hyaju. He carried her to safety. Once Hyaju was on her feet, Choi Yul asked her to convey a message to the people about their rewards. Hyaju smiled, thinking that Choi Yul had found a solution. However, his next words left her shocked. He revealed his intent to use all the rewards for himself. Hyaju exclaimed, "What, are you serious?" as Choi Yul walked away, instructing her to tell the people to stay away if they wished to keep their rewards. Choi Yul summoned his mythical weapon, Krasina's book, and contemplated his predicament. He realized there was no way to return the rewards to the people or escape the influence of the Demon King book. In an attempt to bolster his capabilities, Choi Yul commanded the system to purchase stats using his points. The system opened a stats shop and inquired about the specific stats and the desired level increase. Choy Yul declared, all stats to the max, resulting in the sound of leveling reverberating in the surroundings. The system then announced to all the citizens that Citizen Choi Yul had reached the maximum level for every stat: stamina, intellect, wisdom, agility, health, and luck, all at 100. Choi Yul asked the system how many dice equipment he had obtained, and the system reported a total of 423,512. He then instructed the system to eliminate all equipment under the magical class and automatically roll for items above the heroic class. After the dice roll was complete, Choi Yul received 142 legendary class equipment and 1023 heroic class equipment, all of which were marked as obtained. Hyaju watched Choi Yul, and the goblin also appeared intrigued by the unfolding events. Choi Yul, exuding a bloody aura, resolved to make the best of the situation since he couldn't get rid of it. He intended to use the bloodied rewards and the power of the Demon King to protect the city in this challenging game and ultimately return to his original life. He began equipping the powerful equipment he had acquired, including a sword, preparing for the next mission. Goblin Swordmaster Jack, spotting a formidable opponent in Choi Yul, readied himself for an attack. However, Choi Yul, wearing his heroic rank magic air shoes, expressed that he didn't have time to engage with the goblin at the moment. He assured the goblin that he would return shortly, leaving him in his current location. Hyaju, observing Choi Yul's departure, wondered aloud, he's just leaving. The goblin, still seated and passive, appeared to be waiting for something. As Choi Yul leapt from building to building, flying through the air, he considered the goblin's behavior. He deduced that Goblin Swordmaster Jack didn't attack first, which meant he wouldn't initiate an attack as long as Choi Yul refrained from provoking him. Thus, Choi Yul decided to confront the other pillar guardians first. When Choi Yul located one of the pillars, he initiated an attack on a fallen angel, delivering a powerful kick to its face that shattered its facial armor. The citizens, still enraged, couldn't see the entire battle between Choi Yul and the fallen angel. Instead, they could only witness the tremendous impacts and explosions created during the battle. In the air, Choi Yul and the fallen angel faced off. Choi Yul attempted to slash the fallen angel with his sword, but the agile foe evaded the strikes. The fallen angel retaliated with a rapid series of punches, reminiscent of Luffy's Gomu Gomu no Gatling, yet Choi Yul managed to block all the blows. As they battled, Choi Yul contemplated the unique traits of Pillar Guardians and how they could be unlocked by fulfilling specific conditions. These traits could introduce weaknesses or, conversely, make the Guardian stronger or more troublesome to deal with. For example, if this particular Pillar Guardian killed 100 humans, it would evolve into a fallen angel that will slaughter all mankind, becoming much more formidable and shifting its focus to killing humans instead. Choi Yul aimed to eliminate Pillar Guardians with potentially troublesome traits first and unlock only the traits necessary for the mission. He understood that the essence of success lay not just in completing the mission but in how the mission was accomplished. Choi Yul seized an opportunity during the battle and reversed his grip on the sword, cutting off the fallen angel's wings. The wounded angel plummeted, and Choi Yul pursued it. A military truck arrived at the scene, and Jang was on the radio, giving orders to stay 500 meters away from the pillars until they could ascertain Choi Yul's intentions. Jang contemplated the situation, unsure whether Choi Yul had failed to find a way to return the rewards or had chosen not to do so. He recognized that Choi Yul's intelligence and power could enable him to dominate the entire city, and even Hyaju, who had previously helped temper Choi Yul, seemed uncontrollable. Jang questioned whether they would be able to complete the mission under these circumstances. As the military truck neared, it was nearly struck by the fallen angel and Choi Yul, resulting in the truck being sent flying. Jang and another soldier managed to escape to safety. Upon their return, they found Choi Yul standing on the defeated pillar, having obtained the fallen angel's wings and halo. In Choi Yul's right hand was the Divine Divide, a legendary rank sword with a history of creating the world but having lost much of its power. Jang attempted to engage in conversation with Choi Yul, but Choi Yul remained silent, leaving the area by flying away. Jang speculated that perhaps the sacrifice of sovereignty was responsible for Choi Yul's apparent lack of ill intentions. However, a soldier alerted Jang that the fallen angel was still alive. The system displayed a message indicating that the special trait had been unlocked in the removal of the wings and halo of the fateless fallen angel. As a result, the angel transformed into a corruption beast with a difficulty level of 2, a creature that had lost its faith and fallen into sin, forsaken by God. The corruption beast emerged before Jang and the other soldiers, leaving them with the daunting task of confronting this formidable foe. Jang couldn't help but lament the challenges of military life, as these 3 monsters proved to be as difficult as an entire raid. The corruption beast moved toward a building, prompting the soldiers to open fire on it. In response, the beast leapt at the soldiers, causing one of them to flee in fear, highlighting the effects of the status abnormality known as fear. Jang could no longer bear the grievances of his fellow soldiers as they faced the relentless monster. Filled with determination, he decided to divert the monster's attention by drawing its fire towards him. He opened fire and taunted the creature, hoping to lead it away from his comrades until support arrived. However, when he turned to gauge the monster's reaction, he realized it was too late. The monster lunged at him, striking him with a powerful blow and knocking him down. Helpless in the grip of the monster's hand, Jang found himself at the brink of death. It was at this critical moment that Choy Yule arrived and announced that he had taken care of one monster. Suddenly, a radiant light emanated from Jang, and a system window appeared, revealing that the activation conditions for Helden's Helmet Hidden skill had been fulfilled. The skill would activate when a user faced a dark or corruption type attack that threatened their life, with the caveat that it would not trigger in the case of death. This skill required the user to be the leader of a party of more than 5 people. When activated, the user would be possessed by the ghost of Helden, the Heretic Inquisitor. The skill had numerous effects, such as imbuing all equipment and skills with divinity, enhancing defense against dark or corruption elements, and increasing attack, defense, and healing power. It also nullified fear, chaos, and temptation, though the user would lose their reason and attack all dark or corruption-type monsters. Helden's helmet's power extended to the other soldiers in Jang's party, blessing them with its divine abilities. They began to shout a battle cry, emboldened by their newfound strength and determination. As they charged into battle, their equipment and skills were enhanced, and they were immune to the negative effects of the dark or corruption elements. The battlefield was now filled with fearless and resolute warriors, ready to face the monstrous threat. Choi Yul, watching the soldiers, thought that it was scarier than he expected. In the flashback, Kwon Jaeong had a conversation with Battalion Commander Kim Song, who offered him a car as a privilege. Jaeong was surprised by this generous offer and questioned whether he had heard correctly. Kim Song explained that in the current uncertain and chaotic situation, they needed a calm, rational, and logical observer who could make sound judgments in unexpected circumstances. He emphasized the importance of such an observer who could remain composed and level-headed in challenging situations. Back in the current reality, Jaeong was actively engaged in the battle, covered in blood, and shouting a battle cry. He wore the hero rank helmet, Helden's Helmet, which prevented confusion, fear, or bewilderment. Jaeong utilized the helmet's divinity on the corruption beast, while the soldiers fired 5.56mm bullets at the creature. Jaeong also shared the helmet's divinity effect with the other soldiers. One soldier used the divinity gunstock, another employed the divinity bayonet skill, and Jaeong utilized the divinity flag. Together, they successfully defeated the corruption beast and celebrated their victory in the name of the goddess. The battalion commander observed the announcement on the system, noting that the independent scout squad, led by Kwon Jaeong, was the highest contributing party in taking down the corruption beast. Kim Song remarked, "As expected, I've got a great eye for these things." After Jaeong and the scouts defeated the beast, Choi Yul attempted to communicate with the goblin swordmaster, even though it couldn't speak. Choi Yul said, "See, I was right. The post-guardian's stamina was drained enough so that Sergeant Kwon's squad could take him down. Even after becoming corrupt, the fallen stamina stays the same. What's more, by transforming the corrupt monsters into new creatures, my contributions to the fateless fallen angel disappear too, making Sergeant Kwon Jaeong the biggest contributor in receiving all the prizes. What do you think?" Choi Yul turned to the goblin. The goblin, unable to speak, looked confused and remained silent. Choi Yul continued, "Not being able to talk was so frustrating. I'm just glad you're listening. Wanna make a bet? If I win, I'll break the Demon King's seal." The scene shifts to Hyaju engaged in battle against an army of anti-human machines. With her legendary ranked weapon, the Empirical Flame Dragon Prominence Canine Spear, she skillfully dispatches them one by one. As she fights, She contemplates the relentless onslaught of these machines and the continuous upgrades they receive. She realizes the urgency of ending this battle before it becomes even more dangerous and deadly. As the Guardian Pilar's mad brains continue to churn out these anti-human machines, Hyaju calls out to the others, urging them to retreat. She is aware of the escalating threat. However, one citizen questions her decision, emphasizing the need to earn points, and another reminds her of the privilege of having a legendary item. In the midst of the chaos, one brave citizen stabs an anti-human machine, determined to earn points to save their family and prevent a tragic fate similar to what occurred last time. Meanwhile, two citizens with Aaron Kingdom's Aaron crossbows, magic-grade crossbows that gain power with more party members from the Aaron Royal Army present, believe they can take on the Guardian Pillar. However, the situation takes a turn as the Guardian Pilar's mad brains redirect his attention toward the two citizens and unleash a powerful laser. Hyaju swiftly intervenes, using her empirical flame dragon spear to cut through the laser and shield the citizens from harm. She instructs them to run to safety, but they are already well on their way, leaving her slightly amused. The Guardian Pilar's mad brains, detecting Hyaju as a significant threat, begin to analyze her. Once the analysis is complete, they set about creating an anti-Hyaju machine that can counter her abilities. Hyaju realizes the danger and is determined to stop the production of this new, formidable adversary. In an unexpected turn of events, all the anti-human machines around Hyaju suddenly leap towards her, launching a coordinated attack. However, Hyaju seizes the opportunity and uses her empirical flame dragon spear to create a blazing spiral of flames around her, incinerating the approaching machines. She shouts for everyone to retreat, ensuring their safety. As the citizens make their escape, Hyaju hurls her spear at the Guardian Pillar, landing a precise hit that triggers a massive explosion, causing minor collateral damage to the nearby citizens. They express their concerns about Hyaju's overwhelming power, which amuses her. The Guardian Pilar's mad brain deploys a high-tech barrier to protect itself, making it clear that the challenges of this otherworld are not to be taken lightly. Amidst the chaos, an anti-Hyaju machine emerges, with a difficulty level of 2. It is resistant to fire, wields a dragon slayer, deals extra damage to Hyaju, and can autonomously track and pursue her. Due to its incredible speed, Hyaju fails to notice the machine approaching from behind, and it launches an attack. Hyaju tried to block the attack using her spear, but it was so strong that she was sent flying and the ground was breaking. As Hyaju struggles to defend against the powerful machine, just before losing consciousness, Choi Yul arrives and swiftly eliminates the mad brains by slashing its head with the legendary sword, the Divine Divide. He consumes the head into Krasina's book. After Choi Yul departs, Hyaju falls unconscious. The anti-Hyaju machine arrives at the spot where Hyaju had been lying, but she is no longer there. It attempts to locate her by tracing her presence. Despite the decapitation of the mad brains, residual electricity still courses through its body. The system announces the fulfillment of a condition for unlocking a trait, which involves eliminating the brain of the mad brain's collective host. This condition causes the mad order. It repeat the crafting of the last produced item, which is the anti-Hyaju machine, and the mad brains double their manufacturing speed and the number of produced items, and the production does not stop until the main unit is destroyed. Choi Yul pondered his next moves, realizing that taking down the pillars was taking longer than anticipated due to the citizens' fear. At the first pillar, the citizens attempted to destroy it, but the post proved too sturdy, and they lacked the firepower to succeed. At the second pillar, the citizens battled the anti-human machines, with one of them urging the wounded to retreat and continue fighting. The arrival of the military truck and its soldiers brought much-needed support to the citizens. Choi Yul recognized that he could easily eliminate the threats, but that approach would be meaningless in the long run. It wouldn't serve the greater purpose of making the entire city stronger. To conquer the game and achieve their objectives, the city needed a capable commander and a champion unit. Meanwhile, Hyaju regained consciousness and was initially relieved that she was alive. However, her fear returned when she realized that the goblin swordsman was the one beside her. She initially screamed out of fear but quickly realized that the goblin could talk. The goblin says, "I treated your wounds. We don't have much time, so let's start right away." She asked what they were going to start. The goblin points his scabbard to Hyaju and says, "Choi Yul said, after a huge defeat, meeting a great teacher and cultivating your strength is a cliché." Hyaju was confused. As the goblin can talk now, this means that Choi Yul defeated the goblin swordsman in the battle and broke the demon king's curse on the goblin. Meanwhile, an anti-Hyaju machine was flying through the city, detecting Hyaju's presence. It had 325 meters to reach its target, but upon arrival, it discovered Choy Yule instead. Choy Yule laughed, having once again fooled one of the machines. He used the Mad Link Brain, a hero-grade trinket that confuses monsters with machine attributes and disarms mechanical traps and devices, allowing him to deceive the anti-Hyaju machine. The machine accumulated energy and prepared to strike. Choy Yule seized the opportunity and moved where he can direct the attack to the first post. As the machine released a powerful blast, Choy Yule skillfully dodged it and the attack struck the post, surprising the citizens. The post was destroyed. Choy Yule is behind the machine. He said this level of damage should work. Thanks, because of you, looks like their problem solved. He suggested resuming their game of hide and seek. Hyaju was in the midst of training with a goblin swordsman. The goblin initiated an attack, which Hyaju deftly blocked using her empirical flame dragon spear. The goblin instructed her to harness a particular power, and she followed his guidance, unleashing the power of the empirical flame. As Hyaju launched her attacks, the goblin continued to evade them, offering valuable advice. He cautioned her against overexerting herself, emphasizing that the power she wielded was not her own and could potentially harm her if she used it recklessly. Instead, he encouraged her to find the balance in using only the amount of power she could control. The power must not dominate her, she must be the one in control. After the grueling training session, Hyaju was exhausted and out of breath. She asked the goblin if Choy Yule had made a bet to make her strong enough to defeat the robot and whether it was even possible. The goblin remained silent for a moment, leaving Hyaju feeling uncertain. She thought to herself, going silent at this point isn't exactly encouraging, you know. Finally, the goblin broke the silence and asked why she allowed him to teach her, questioning whether it was because of her trust in Choy Yule or a personal desire to become stronger. Hyaju confessed that she wasn't entirely sure. The world of the game and its missions were filled with mysteries, and she didn't feel smart enough to find all the answers through thinking alone. Her primary goal was to strengthen herself physically first, believing that by doing so, she might eventually discover more about the world. The goblin smiled, realizing that Hyaju wasn't merely a pawn in Choy Yule's plans but a martial artist forging her unique path. With this realization, the goblin committed to taking her training seriously. Hyaju vowed and expressed her gratitude for the lesson. 3 days later, in the 8th pawn, in the subway, the citizens had gathered, seeking shelter. Frustration and anxiety filled the air as they wondered when the crisis would end. Some citizens debated whether they should venture out to help those in danger, but the fear of losing points and failing the mission held them back. Suddenly, a powerful blast rocked the subway as something erupted from above, breaking through the ground and the ceiling. The anti-Hyaju machine had detected Hyaju's signal and immediately commenced its assault. The citizens, startled by the explosion, cried out for help as the machine appeared to attack what it believed was Hyaju. However, what the machine had targeted was merely the severed head of another machine. The real Hyaju emerged from the hole in the ceiling created by the machine's attack. The citizens gazed in awe at her, mistaking her for an angel.
If it brought value to your day, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for more content like this. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so don't hesitate to leave a comment below with your feedback or suggestions. Thank you for tuning in, and may your day be filled with peace.